Hey there, Germ readers, and welcome to our third and final check-in for Renée Ahdieh's The Wrath and the Dawn.
The first step begins with you. Try something different, something new. You decide in spite of fear. You start now, you start here.
So we're going to be talking about pages 125 through the end, and usually this is when I would start our discussion questions, but I am still reeling from the end of this book. So I just want to take some time to talk about what we were thinking as we finish the book, and that's going to be our discussion for this check-in. So first off, in this section, we finally got our answer as to why Khalid is killing his wives every dawn, and it has to do with his first marriage and his wife's father cursing him because she killed herself. So I don't know about you, but when it comes to Ava's father, I am completely bewildered by his decision making, in that he wanted revenge for his daughter taking her own life, but it was such a horrific way to do it. When I think of revenge, I think of the phrase an eye for an eye, but he kind of thought, I lost an eye, so everyone loses an eye. And of course, this is so much suffering for Khalid himself, but it's so much suffering for the entire city, and it's kind of unfathomable to me, that decision that he made. As for the very ending itself, I felt kind of abrupt, but in a good way, in a way that kept me really engaged, and I feel like I was reading faster the closer I got to the end, because I just wanted to know what was going to happen. And we didn't get all of our answers, but I think that's good. I'm literally already waiting for the sequel. I think the author did a really fantastic job of concluding this story, but leaving enough loose ends that I think a lot of us are going to be waiting for in the sequel. A couple of things that weren't tied up at the end were Shahrazad's abilities. We still don't really know what's going on with that, but we know that she has the rug with her, so I'm sure that's going to be a huge storyline in the next book. And also, we found out that it was that Sultan who hired the assassins. So that has to make some kind of comeback, probably in a pretty big way in the next book as well. So I am eagerly awaiting to find out what happens with those. I think the other big thing worth noting that I liked about the end was when they talked about how Khalid wasn't killing anyone yet, and so the curse came on the city in that there was a drought, there wasn't enough rain for crops and all that. And people were starving. And then when he refused to kill Shahrazad, the way that the suffering came back was through a huge storm that brought fires. So it was not enough rain and too much. So I thought it was just a really interesting thing that they're still searching for that balance, because they thought it was the curse weakening, but it was actually just growing in a different way. I think the biggest point for me in the ending was I could not believe that Shahrazad left the city. And granted, it was not at all by her choice. She was ready to sacrifice herself, and I thought for sure that's what was going to happen, that she was going to end up dying, and that's when her abilities would kind of come in and something would happen with that. But none of the men in her life are willing to let her die, so they literally take her out of the city and even say never let her back in. But I feel like we know Shahrazad well enough to know that when she wants back in the city, when she feels that's where she needs to be, that's where she's gonna be. So I'll be interested to see how she deals with this kind of stress. So that's it for this check-in, and that's it for this book. Don't forget that we have an interview with Renée Ahdieh that's coming up, so keep a lookout on Germ for that, because that should be posting sometime soon. Also, don't forget that tomorrow we are starting Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. Our first check-in will be on August 15th, and we will have read through page 150. So I will see you all then for our last book. Bye.
Reach out and find your voice. Make a change, make a choice.